Great. So yes, good morning. The topic we are studying today is one of the most important topics in Shabbat. The whole aspects um, of electricity. Now, if you go to children at school, or actually also many grown-ups, and you ask them, what is Shabbat? So many of them will say it's a day that you're not allowed to use your phone. Uh, or a day without screens. I don't need to mention you that Shabbat existed a bit before smartphones came to the world, and even before TVs came. But there is something about what they say that today all of our lives turn to be electrified. Like everything is electricity, and slowly there's no such thing that is not. Like you almost don't have a regular thing that is not electricity, and that brought a complete new topic that was actually very hard for the rabbis to conclude. What is the thing when it came? Imagine a world. You go back to the middle end of the 19th century, 1870, 1880, 1890. These things start to come and exist around, and the rabbis have to understand what is this phenomenon. Now, I'm not going to ask you what is electricity. Um, like we can say something about energy and such, but it's actually very hard to understand and explain in, in the deeper understanding what electricity really is. I'm not saying that I know how it works, or so, like I know a bit of how it works, but the fact that energy can create things in a way that doesn't involve action. Good. So uh, this this was and still is a huge topic. It becomes again like there are periods that it's less complicated, periods that is more complicated. Today with smart houses, it again everything is like we came into some kind of a balance with electricity, but then smartphones and smart houses changed again everything. It makes it impossible to only use the things that we said 50 and 60 years ago. So every time a new technology around the um, electricity comes, there's something new that then needs to be approached and to rediscuss. But taking a start from what the rabbis said already there 150 years ago, and we're going to talk about it. So, electricity. I have a mobile phone here. Can you explain to me, anyone? We already learned melachot, we learned the things that are forbidden. Can you tell me why am I not allowed to use this on Shabbat?
Maybe one of the things is because you cannot move
I
the
cannot move. I cannot move what?
the things, and you move the mobile and
You say because of muktzeh. Okay, and we
yes,
said there are many different kinds of muktzeh. It's very hard to say why this one is muktzeh. It might be klishe melachto leisur, but I say, Lina, yes. What do you say, Lina?
My guess or answer would be that electricity, like for example, light, started off being thought of as the same as making a fire.
Okay, so fire.
Yeah,
That's
there's no fire in the phone, but I guess like the whole debate about electricity started off being compared, but also maybe because you can create things like I don't know. That's the whole thing about the 39 but like because making a phone call, like connecting with via the phone. I don't
but
know. This is me guessing.
good. I love all your hands. I have a lot of questions, but thank for the. It is very challenging. So you say something that start with fire and then making something, maybe. That yes, bracha.
I'm also just guessing, but could it be you're exerting energy? So it seemed like work because it is an electrical device. So anytime you push the button, you're lighting a tiny fire, like
Okay, so
yeah,
let's be specific. When we talk about work, we have to talk about melachot. So at the end, you said fire, yeah, but until then, just saying work is not. I work
okay.
on Shabbat, right?
Oh yeah,
I stand
of
in
course,
the synagogue
rabbi.
in the.
Yeah,
Okay, so you said something that's connected to fire. Now I can tell you from the producer of iPhones, if there was some fire inside, it wouldn't work. So it's a let's see how it can be connected to fire.
yeah. No, I don't have anything on that. I just they thought it was
Yeah.
like the latter said. They thought it was fire, and it is energy use. And you're pressing on buttons, not buttons,
Oh,
but
okay.
pressing
We'll
on the
continue.
screen.
Let's see if someone. Okay, we got fire. Okay,
You're turning
Paulina,
on
you have something else?
lamps.
I think
You,
so. You usually like electricity is like, from what I understand, the rabbis have when they try to understand what it is, the electricity is like handling a fire, right? So this is the problem number one.
Fire, we already said
Yes,
maybe.
and
Okay,
then
one.
also I like when Lena went into like writing because like into creating something because then it's definitely writing and erasing, and of course it's muktzah.
Okay, so maybe writing and erasing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, good.
We
And it's
touched
not,
up
of
on
course,
the
Muktzah. Muktzah is
screening.
dependent on what it does. Yes, Sarah.
We touched up on the screening, like pushing the buttons. This is also connected to it.
If I have a door that doesn't have a key but has like a code to open,
Yeah.
I'm allowed to press it to open. Pushing buttons is not forbidden on Shabbat as
Hmm.
like principle. If a way to open a door will be some kind of a button that pushes something, so buttons in themselves are not something forbidden.
But if it's an electric lock, it's a forbidden, right?
We will discuss that too.
Okay.
Okay, good. More options. I hear mostly fire. Can you give some other one? Lena brought fire and
Yeah, I also said creating, like making the phone call is, I don't know.
yes, but that's also a question. What is the
Yeah,
thing you
what are
do?
you creating? I don't
What is the
know.
melacha? Like we
Yeah.
have to think. We have the 39 melachot. What is the melacha that is forbidden? Because talking to other people is not allowed. Who said talking in distance is not allowed? Yes, Pauli.
every time you touch your phone, you start a new event. You create something new. When you open it, you have to write
Okay.
PIN
Create
code.
something new. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. That is not one of the melachot, but there is a melacha de Rabbanan. You have like what called maybe I'm sure this is what you meant. Something called molid. Molid is like giving birth. So we're
Yes,
kind of
exactly. When
creating something new, and that's why that's molid is a melacha de Rabbanan. Yes.
yeah,
And
because when you open it and start a program, you create new.
yes. Okay. Good. iPhone. I don't know your name.
Sophia. Yeah,
Sophia.
I think that it's partly also that your phone is connected to your normal life, like you do work with it and
Oh,
everything stuff like that. And if you think that Shabbat is something where you do totally different things than in your normal days, like
yes.
you do. Yeah,
Yes.
so
Now,
it's something not holy or it's the most normal thing you have in your life. That's for most nowadays. Like yeah.
you're right. Is this like uvdin dechol, like doing things the same way as you do in regular days? There are things that you're allowed to do on Shabbat in the same manner you do in regular days. You're allowed to breathe, you're allowed to walk, you're allowed to eat, you're allowed to talk to other people. So there are things that you do every day that you're allowed to do on Shabbat, right? But maybe there's something about uvdin dechol, something that is today even I would say more that is very relevant. Yes. I have Julia, Muriel. Yes, Julia.
Yes, if we return to the topic of fire, is it intentional igniting of fire? So that's why we have Shabbat lamps where the lamp is on, but you just do this cover thing.
This connected to, okay, but now we go to the detail. I'm asking the reason why it might be forbidden.
So
right?
when every time we use electrical item, we intentionally ignite a fire if we assume that.
Okay, so great. So the intention to ignite a fire. Great.
Yes,
Yes, Muriel?
that's it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's also connected to the grid. So I was wondering, does it maybe make work for you as well? Like that the electrical centrals or something, they start doing something, which I don't know exactly what, but
Well, you are so wonderful. Thank you. You're adding the aspect of labor, of someone working and
yeah.
doing and creating somewhere else that helps us here. Thank you so much. Yes, I have two more. Let's do it short because I want to go to the sources. Lancelot.
Yes, so I was thinking that maybe there's the problem of, like, let's say you do something that is not a problem in and of itself, like you check the time. You're allowed to check the time, but it could also lead to doing a lot of other things that would break Shabbat, and you should abstain from doing things that could lead into you accidentally breaking Shabbat and other things. Like you could open up Amazon on your phone and start buying things, and you should not do that because you're not allowed to buy things on Shabbat, for instance.
Okay. So the option to come to something else that might be forbidden. Katrina, you had your hand?
I thought that maybe it takes the focus away from Shabbat. I think it partly was said before, but yeah.
So connected to Uvdin Dechol, like the way of doing things on a regular day compared to Shabbat. Great, thank you so much. You are amazing and creative. Now I'm going to open the sources. We'll start from the beginning, from the Talmud. Even though Talmud didn't know anything about Shabbat, the sources, the way to approach it, goes all the way back there. There's a crucial Maimonides, a crucial Rambam that everyone discusses to talk about what is exactly forbidden on Shabbat, and then all the approaches from modern times. So I'll share the. Oh, I need to be allowed to share. Cecilia, can you let me share?
Yes, I haven't gotten the request up actually for the
I
sharing.
need to send requests. Now I sent a
Yes,
request.
now it should be
Thank
shareable.
you.
Try
Thank
again.
you. Here. Here. Okay, so the first source that we will talk about is connected to what many of you mentioned. It says on Talmud Shabbat. It's within a discussion about something else. Okay, the very like a tiny thing. Like usually the thing you'll find something that is similar in a way to what exists today. So the source says as follow. It's within another debate. I just cut the part that is relevant for us. V'ha'amar Shmuel, but Shmuel said, Shmuel was one of the greatest Amoraim rabbis in the Talmud time. One may extinguish a piece of white hot metal in a public area so that the masses will not be injured, but not wood coal. Okay, the word in Hebrew here is gachelet, because the same word is used for a metal piece that is like it's burning, and a wood piece that is burning, like a coal. It's the gachelet shel etz, like this piece of burning fire, but it's not burning with fire. It's just very hot in a way that if someone will touch it, they will get a kviya, brandsår. Don't remember the word. And but also if you, for example, will put the paper next to it, it will be lit, so it will get fire. And here they distinguish. So the Gemara here says there's a difference. If it's a metal, hot thing that like is red, red hot, if it's metal, you're allowed to extinguish it. You're allowed to shut it, but not if it's wood, because as we know, we have the avot melacha of mav'ir and mechabeh, right? We had both. Like you're not allowed to light a fire, and you're not allowed to turn it off. So here you have an interesting saying: if it's from wood, you're not allowed to do it. But if it's from metal, then you're allowed to do it. Allowed doesn't mean, again, it's in a specific place. And here there's a reason, right? You're allowed to do it in order for the masses not to be injured. So the question, will you be allowed to do it if there's no danger? If it happen in your garden and no one will, there's no chance and anyone will get injured. But at least we can see a difference between wood and metal, which is of course very relevant when we come to the world of electricity and heat and so on. Another source comes from Talmud Beitzah. Talmud Beitzah is the Masechet that usually talks about rules of Yom Tov, of Chag, but many of them are relevant for Shabbat as well. And here they say, one may not produce fire, neither from wood, nor from stones, nor from dirt, not from tiles, and not for water. Now, technically, you might think, how can you make fire of these things? But you can actually imagine, like water in a very hot day, if you put it above something that, in the same way that you use like a magnifier, like something that. So this is a way to, for example, and the Talmud here says, if the result will be light a fire, even though you don't use traditional regular ways to light the fire, that's also forbidden. Okay, so that can open. Okay, and then what the reasoning behind it, which is interesting. Why is it? You would say because of fire. It comes and says something. One may not produce new fire on a festival in any manner, like all these manners. And what is the reason for this? Because he creates something new on a festival, on Chag. Okay, so this is the molid that one of you mentioned. So molid, giving birth to something, creating something new. This is the reason that it will be not allowed. Okay, these are the sources. There's one more, but these are the main sources that all the rabbis that discussed about electricity started from these to understand. Now I'll run to Maimonides. I want this to be both theoretical and practical today. Maimonides comes and says a principle that are also very important. A person who kindles even the smallest fire is liable, provided he needs the ash that it creates. However, should a person kindle a fire with a destructive intent, he is not liable, for he is causing ruin. Okay, the word mav'ir that we use like lighting fire, the word mav'ir originally is not only connected to fire, but actually to burn something down. It's about ruining it. You can also use mav'ir in the Bible. In a few places you can use the word not in connected with fire, and not connection with fire, but connection with ruining something completely. So he said that the melacha that is forbidden with mav'ir is because you need to burn it down. Like it's because it's this is your goal. But if you just like if it doesn't give you any benefit of the material that will stop, then it will be fine. A good example is what we read every Shabbat. those of you who read in details, the we have the chapter we read from the Mishnah before Kabbalat Shabbat, Bameh Madlikin. And in Bameh Madlikin we say Hamchabe et haner, about someone who turned the lights, the candle off. Because he's worried, because he's for a sick person to sleep, patur. But if he does it because he's not, he doesn't want the oil to run down, or because of anything that is connected to the material, then he's liable. Okay, so there's a difference between a way of shutting, because when you shut it off, it doesn't. It's not about the fires that disappears. It's connected to the way the fire works, what it will do to the material. Not only the aspect of is there fire or is there no fire. That's not about that. It's about what it will do to the material. That's a very relevant distinguish. And then he add here the Rambam, a person who heats iron. Look at how beautiful it is. Who heats iron in order to strengthen it by simmering it in water is liable for a derivative of kindling, of lighting fire. So if you have a fire, you put the metal piece in the fire and then put it in water. So he comes here and says this is also forbidden, because you can't, even though you didn't take the water and put it on fire. In a way, I might like the way I would read Rambam here is Rambam basically says if you do a sequence of things that are not forbidden by themselves, but the result is that the water is now boiling, it's not allowed. It's very problematic what I say now, because it's against everything we do with the electricity today and all the solutions we create. But I think in a way this is what he wanted to say, but this is not how he was read. So we follow the way he was read and not the way I now interpret. So forget I said what I said. But in principle, he comes in and try to say, if you find a creative way of boiling the water, this is also mav'il. This is also kindling. Okay, now you have another one in Maimonides. A person who extinguishes a fire of even the smallest size is liable, because again there's two different things. One is the lighting and one is distinguish. One who extinguishes a candle and one who extinguishes a coal that comes from wood. In contrast, a person who extinguishes a glowing piece of metal is not liable, just like we read in the Gemara. If, however, the person's intent is to purify the metal, he's liable. So if it's because you're forming the metal, if there's a gain of the metal be shaped in a new way, then it is you are liable. But if not, you're not liable. This indeed is the practice of blacksmiths. They heat the iron until it glows like a coal and extinguish it in water to seal it. This is the process of purifying of which one is liable. It is a derivative of extinguishing. It is permissible to extinguish a glowing piece of metal in the public domain so that many people will not be injured by it. Here he brings the directly quotation from the Talmud. A person who pours oil into a burning lamp is liable for kindling. A person who takes oil from a lamp is liable for extinguishing. All right, so you're not allowed to change the amount of oil in a burning candle. Okay, so these are the Rambam. There's one more Rambam that is mentioned somewhere else. He talks about also cooking. The question is, he might one place explain that you're not allowed to burn a metal piece because of cooking it. That's also very interesting. Because cooking is another forbid. Now I want to go to the before. Okay, I made a list because I couldn't bring the sources, and it's also all are from answers that came in the last 150 years, and these are the basic reasons that people disallowed or allowed in a way, and said it's forbidden. The first one is Chazon Ish, extremely important, and most of the ultra-Orthodox will follow this direction because they choose to take the most restrictive. So Chazon Ish says it's not allowed because of boneh, building. He says when you create, because all of the electricity today that we work, most of them is not relevant as the thing we read before, because most of the electricity today, even more, when he wrote it, there was much more also, you had the electricity of like the bulb that has a, that turns muatlahat, like it's, how do you call the all light bulbs? Not the LED, the older technology.
Yeah, you mean glødepære in Danish, right?
Yeah, glue, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember how it's called. Glue, glue
Glødepære.
Glue. Do everyone know what I'm talking about?
Glødelampe. The little skrutrekkerne inni
Exactly. Because you all remember how it looked. Some people you still use it, but so there you could actually really discuss the fire aspect, right? Because it was heated in a way. It was heated to 1,000 degrees. So and the reason it didn't burn the metal was because the lamp is built in a way that it doesn't have any oxygen. If it had the oxygen, the metal will disappear. It would have completely disappeared, but because it doesn't have any oxygen inside the bulb, then it turned into glue. Like, so it was it gave the light and actually almost fire. It wasn't fire because it didn't have the oxygen, but it had oxygen. It would have been a fire. So. So Chazon Ish, who was a great rabbi in the beginning of the 20th century, very unique in the way of thinking, he said that the main problem with electricity is bunny, is creating a circle. Because he said the circle of electricity is the thing that makes something work. So what you are building when you close a circle, an electric circle. Okay, that's one. So bonnet, again, a bonnet is one of the 39 melachot. So if it's directly bonnet, as he said, then it's a isur doraita. Then it means electricity is not allowed from the Torah, or at least turning it on. So making it before Shabbat will be fine, but during Shabbat that would be that would be closing a circle. Another one, a direction that Tzitzi Eliezer went to, and Rav Moshe Feinstein mentioned it in one of his answers about loudspeaker and microphone, is Makeba Patish. The last, if you remember the list of the 39 melachot, I think the last one or one before was Makeba Patish, which is like giving a hit hit it by a hammer, but it's completing the product, like doing the last bit that completes it. And he said, and the idea here is when you create something, you created it before, but you make it work by setting the electricity on. So this is like the last part to make this machine work. This is like makeba patish, like hitting with a hammer and finishing the product, because it's only finished when it works. This is a different direction. But also makeh b'patish is also melacha deoraita. Another one, I'll jump the molid, because molid is as I say from the rabbis and not deoraita. It's melacha de rabbanan, not melacha deoraita. But you have Rav Kook. You heard of Rav Kook, like the inspired, the leading figure in the national religious world in Israel. In the last, I would say, 70 years, he was the first Ashkenazi chief rabbi of Israel. Not of the state, but during the British Mandate. He passed away before the state started. And he was also a great posek, and he said that it's like burning. He said that the electricity in the wires is considered like fire, and it's like fire that you move around. And he said it's like the burning is the closest thing, even if you use it to other things, not only when you do it in a light bulb, but in any other use. This is like he would say this is the new burning. This is connected from that with melacha, like most of you said. So additional reason, and some people went to the direction. One is cooking. That is also mevashel. Is also one of the lamed of melacha. Creating sparks, which is the rabbanan. It's like creating sparks. It's not burning, but it's like it's tolada. It's like under that, but that would be the rabbanan. And writing, which is interesting. Someone mentioned here something about writing on the phone. Many people say that in today's electricity, almost everything you do involves some kinds of a data and writing. So some went to that direction. That is now it's important to say writing is only not allowed when it's like only not allowed from Doraita when it's stays like where you can't wipe like with a pen or pencil where it's real. If you do it with water or with something else, also not allowed. We learned that before, but it's not Doraita. It's not the melacha of kotev shte otiyot, of writing two letters. And the last one, which is I think the one that the majority today will go after, is the molid. Molid, creating something new, or uvdin dechol, that many of you mentioned. Uvdin dechol is like doing things in the same way, in the same manner of regular days, and molid of creating something new. Now, it's very hard also to say about molid, creating something new, because when we talk about creating something new, it is something new. It's not it's not something that you can use all the time, right? Something that you can use all the time didn't create something new, you just used it, right? So using this to electricity is also complicated. And I wanted to show you all these options, first of all, just to know when you look about it, know all mention the sources, but understand how complicated it actually is to say that something is forbidden today. Like, we don't actually know what electricity is. I'm not sure we know what electricity is in reality, but even more, we don't know Jewish-wise what it is, because you have so many opinions about it that goes to completely different directions. So you have rabbis pointing on very different things. Some of them, there were the discussions in the past. Some of the greatest rabbis in their time didn't forbid many things than electricity. They didn't allow to turn on and off, but they did allow to watch TV when it was. Today, no one allows it, but in the past, it was like watching TV and putting on a Shabbat timer. That would be fine. The discussion in the past was much more like they really didn't know what it is. And I'll come to also what it means for today. But you can see from here not what it is and why it's forbidden, but you can see all the reasons and why is it so complicated. Okay, it's not a simple thing. When you come and say, this is not allowed because it's electricity, it is not that simple. Okay, that is what I'm saying. And you can see here the answer I brought. There was a letter correspondence between two of the greatest Haredi rabbis, Rav Shlomo and Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish that I mentioned that writes it as a bonnet. And here they respond back and forth and it turned into a book of Minchat Shlomo in his responsa of Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who was the rabbi that I would say the majority of poskim today will follow Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Like he's the one that is the most accepted opinion. And I don't know if we should read it. We can read a bit, okay? He said, the Chazon Ish writes, it is also forbidden because of repairing, since it makes it possible for the current to constantly flow, which is like bonnet. Okay, this is what I said. The Chazon Ish talks about bonnet in the Torah. Okay. So, and he comes in so he answered that and says, when the person presses a button here, we do not do anything yet. In any event, the very closing of the circuit to be completed and ready for the electricity that will then be done at another time. He said, when you press a button that then will let the electricity go in, you didn't do anything. You allowed the electricity to come in, but you didn't create, you didn't build, you didn't do. So he said that that can't be considered like constructive. This is like he argues that it is Chazon Ish, and Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach answers this can't be in any way. So. And this also, and also because pressing the button, also connected to what you said, and also because pressing the button to open or close a circuit is easy to do frequently. You do it all the time. Therefore, even when connected, it is only called use and not building. You use, right? None of us say that we build the we use the different electric devices. He says this is using, this is not building. You can't say that every time you use it, you build something new. You don't, you use it. You use something that already is there. And his main opinion, but mainly it seems to me that there is no prohibition against using electricity on Shabbat, but rather because of the result done by electricity, such as cooking and lighting. So it depends on the result of the thing that you will use the electricity for, which is considered as if we cooked or lit ourselves. Okay, so he said it's not allowed in its person. It's because of what the result that will happen from it, which is not allowed. And this is like a secondary. It's not the fact of using the electricity. It's only as a secondary, the result of what we will do, which will be the. It can be explained according to this that, in my humble opinion, it seems that in such a case where one did not perform any lighting or extinguishing at all, but merely connects the phone to the power source. Remember, he talks about old phones, not today's phones. He passed away in 95. But merely connects the phone to the power source. It should not be prohibited on Shabbat and Yom Tov, neither for the reason of striking a hammer, makeba patish, that we mentioned, nor for the reason of creating of molid. However, and this is the most important part, I think that the general populace that does not know how to distinguish this and can mistakenly say that it is permitted to light and extinguish electricity on Shabbat. Therefore, even for us, this should not be permitted, except in a case of great necessity, which is, I think, very important. He comes and say it's not in principle not allowed, but we shouldn't go out and say it is allowed. Because then we might mistake, because electricity is so many different things, and you might not understand what can be allowed and what cannot be allowed. It's too difficult. Then it should only be used if there is a great necessity that you really have to use it, then it should be allowed. But if not, it should be allowed. Okay, so and he comes in and says something that I think opens to the principle. I will also add a beautiful thing that I saw of Rav Yaakov Ariel, the rabbi of Ramat Gan, a very big authority also today in the national religious world. And he writes about electricity as follows. Is there someone else wants to read? Just let me.
I can do it.
Thank you.
These words are particularly relevant to our generation, where technology has advanced and developed. And on weekdays, most people do not toil and labor physically, but rather sit and press buttons, listening, talking, and making decisions, all done almost effortlessly, yet with mental strain. Blessed is he who has granted his people Israel Shabbat and holidays, during which this global upheaval rests for us. No telephone, no fax, no computer, no radio, no vehicle, and no other device. Rather, it is a holy Shabbat. How fortunate we are, and how good is our lot, and what a wonderful gift this is that God has given us, bestowing upon his people Israel Shabbat and holidays for sanctify and rest, for Torah and joy. Therefore, it seems to be that even for the authorities who believe that electrical devices are only prohibited rabbinically, one should not be lenient in their use except in times of great difficulty and with additional supporting reasons, while exercising serious and responsible consideration, so that the dam of the sanctity of Shabbat does not break, as it is the foundation of all Torah of Israel. When there is no great necessity, one should therefore be concerned for those who hold that the operation of an electrical device is prohibited by Torah law.
Yeah. Okay. So I think these words, for me, are the main reason that electricity is not allowed on Shabbat. And the amazing thing that, in a way, the rabbis already understood it when it started. Like the rabbis who wrote in the beginning and tried to find reasons to forbid it without knowing that we'll come to a world that will be only electrically. Like the LED technology, the thing that we use today won't be relevant. Many of the examples that they gave. But the fact that they came to a situation saying this is not allowed, this is a crucial thing, that because if not, we don't have Shabbat. Even though maybe none of the 39 melachot is done in any way, we wouldn't have Shabbat. If we could use, if they allowed completely the LED technology, all of our screens today are LED technology, that would be allowed. And they also, now remembering that is also important regarding the exemptions. So for example, in hospitals or places of need, you can use these things, understanding that this is actually not that bad on Shabbat. Like if you come and you are in a time, let's say time of need, even time of need that you're not, I'm not saying like life-threatening direct thing, but really a situation that that you are in the time where you consider, right? I don't know, you see someone who had a small accident on the road, right? In a bicycle accident. It's not life-threatening, but it's a time of need. In such time, don't be that lenient about using phones on Shabbat. I'm not saying that, of course, you don't have a phone with you, but if he has a phone and you help him with it, this won't be, oh no, I broke it. It is not as bad as we do it. For the other side, it's very important to make it clear that it's not something that we use on Shabbat. So it's from the one side, don't make it, there's an aspect of electricity that is why it's not allowed. This is not the case. But for the other side, it's important to not be too lenient, because then we don't have any Shabbat at all. It's very easy to, let's say, working on a computer or iPad and in theory not break any Shabbat rule, but then turn Shabbat into a regular day, completely working, doing everything we do. So and here the I would say the how the clever the word to use it. This is the theory. Any questions here? Because I want to go over to practice. And we don't have lots of time.
I actually do have a question.
Yes, Max.
Now, I've been thinking about this for a little bit here, and what I'm thinking about is the fact that you're not allowed to separate wheat, the little corn of wheat, from what holds it inside on Shabbat.
Yes.
It's to do with agriculture.
Yeah.
Could you apply this to essentially what you're doing with electricity when you connect a circuit? Because electrons are stored in the, what is it called? Anode. And when you do this, you connect it from the plus pole to the minus pole. You're separating the electrons out from the anode. You're moving it to the cathode, which is the minus pole. Could you have an analogy that process is like
you could
in
a very no, we have a principle in halakha saying something that the eye can't see is not a thing. And so the details that you go to is the detail that the halakha doesn't consider. Like you don't start considering the that, and also like talking about it as separation, because the separation in the agriculture would be like throwing something out, which we don't do here. You don't throw anything out, right? It separates and it does it automatically by itself. So it's not a. So I don't know anyone going to that direction, but maybe you'll have a chidush and you are. Clearly you understand in electricity more than I do, so maybe you can write an answer about there are so many also people who are not experts who write articles about it. I want to go to practical things. So Nina and Paula, is it something you're like very important now, or can we go to practical and then maybe that will answer some of what you want? Nina, what do you want?
Okay, I will ask about the what you call it, not the refrigerator, but the kylskåp.
Yes, thank you. Practically, I'm going to practical.
Okay.
So,
okay, I have
good.
a new one. It's not possible to turn off the light.
It's very complicated. We'll talk about it now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll start with the simple things. Electric things that are giving noise, like radio. In theory, you could let the radio stay on the whole Shabbat, right? There's nothing happening, especially here. There's no Jew working there. Or maybe there is, but it's like but you're not allowed as the Marit Ein, because Marit Ein, which is also relevant, something people will look at. Say, how? Because radio is something usually you turn on and off, then people will see it, will assume that you turn it on, right? It's not something that is stays. So these things and telephone the same. But for the other aspect, a hearing device is allowed, and you're even allowed to adjust because it's used. Usually, people have it on the whole time, and it's because it's a place of necessity. Right? So so in a place of necessity, they're used in a way called grama, like that it brings something into effect. but the effect only will happen some later stage, so it's not a directly happening by you, then it will be allowed. That's according to almost all opinions. Elevators. In Bnei Brak today, there are no Shabbat elevators. Because Rav Eliashiv wrote a few years ago that it takes more electricity, and he says because he followed the opinions of the more strict about it, that the electricity is like a bonnet building. So for the Haredis today, in Bnei Brak, or at least one other season, I can see that I was in many hotels where many Haredi used Shabbat elevators, but in a place that other Haredi season, they don't. They don't do it. It's but the majority of all the modern Orthodox, they agree that even though it has an effect that you will add some of the electricity, but it works anyways without you. That's why it's psik reisha begrama. It's like it happened as a result of what you do, but that's not your intention. You don't do it in order to use more electricity. It's only a result of what you do, and that's why it doesn't matter in this case. It's not something you're interested in. If for your sake, it could use less energy. You don't want it to use more energy for your sake. So because it's completely electronic and there's no person involved, then it doesn't have any aspect. Using electricity that is created on Shabbat in Israel, it's very complicated. Like the fact that you need people to work on Shabbat for you, the reasoning that almost all the rabbis agreed why they had to find a solution, right? Because you can't live without electricity today. It's impossible. So the solution is that the electricity has to work in Israel, right? Because of pikuach nefesh. You need hospitals to have electricity, because if not, people will die. So because of that, you need the electricity for pikuach nefesh, it's allowed for them to make sure that the electricity works, and because it already works for them, then the others are allowed to use it. Here, it's not relevant, the question of who creates electricity, and today there's much less of that also in Israel, because of all these things that are much more electronic, and less people are involved in working on Shabbat. But that was also a big thing, and you had many places, I think some places you still have, that have Shabbat generators, like in Haredi neighborhoods that have they go off grid. They take themselves off the national electricity. Okay. Sha'on Shabbat. This is very important. A timer. Yes, you all know these timers that you can put in the electricity and put something in. A timer is allowed on Shabbat. First of all, everyone can see it. But it's in the same way as, for example, if you have a room with a candle and there's a window open, you're allowed to shut the window. Now that will have an effect on the light, right? Because it means that the light will stay longer, because the wind makes it burn quicker or even disappear. So the fact that you do something that has an effect on the light doesn't mean you're not allowed to do it, even in order for the light to stay longer. And so that is allowed. That's also why you're even allowed, when the timer is on, you're allowed to prolong it. Because you only prolong something that is already work. Is already work. You're not changing the status. The debate about doing it near. Now, there are debates about if you want to shut quicker, because then you're not prolonging. You are doing something that will make it shut quicker. Like if you put it on the light in the room and you don't want it and you want to go to sleep earlier. Some people say it's not allowed, but for example, Rav Ovadia and a lot of people agree with that direction. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, for example, that I mentioned, that wrote the book of Shmirat Shabbat Kihchata, I'm sorry. He also allows to put it quicker, not to shut it, right? You can't shut it, but you can do it in a way that it will, you turn all these small pieces that it will come. So there are different opinions here. You can decide if you're more lenient or not. That's up to you. There's no yes or no, but that's a debate. But prolong it is allowed to everyone. And if it's about what will happen tomorrow, if there is already a change of that, then you can turn like change them as much as you want. It had no meaning. It's only like a prolonging or a shortening. But if you set it for tomorrow at 12 and you push it to 1, it has no effect if it's not on right now. Um, um, Something else that is interesting, also connected. Let's say that you have a electric radiator and you want it to be warmer. It has a thermostat. Now, in the time when it's red and works, you're actually allowed to turn it on because it will continue to do the same thing that it does. Like the way it does is because it has a thermostat. So when it's on, you're actually allowed to take it longer. So when you see the light on, you can. The same thing if it was too hot. So wait until the light is off, and then you're allowed to take it down because it won't change what you do. There's no change happening in that by doing that. So you're allowed to do that in places of have like a thermostat, but of course not in a not somewhere where you do it in a digital way. So not with a remote. That you can't do, only if it's a physical change. A refrigerator. That is today very complicated because the systems are much more connected, even more. Today, it's not only about the lights. I worked very hard to take the light out of our refrigerator, but there are also other elements that are connected to opening and closing. You're allowed to open you could say you can't open a refrigerator because it changes the thermostat. And some people some more lenient will say you're only allowed to open the refrigerator while it works, because then you won't change the way it works. But this is not how modern refrigerators work. I would say when you buy a new refrigerator, buy one that has a Shabbat function. Shabbat function you can find in Denmark. In almost every product, you can see if they have a Shabbat function or not. Like it's because the companies who do it, they create it in China to everywhere, and they have many of them have Shabbat function. So please buy one that has a Shabbat function, because then it solves all the problems. They already solved it for us. So if you buy a new one, do that. If you don't, talk to your rabbi and find out about the specific model and what you can do and how it can be solved. There are solutions. The majority, as I said, agree that you're allowed to open a refrigerator, even though it affects the thermostat, that it will be quicker, that it will start. The majority that agree with that. Another thing that is very important, yes, also in Norway, one thing about Norway, I can tell you that no refrigerator is created in Norway. So all our electricity shops buy the refrigerators from producers that do it for the whole world. And that's why many of them have Shabbat functions also in Norway. It's not because they don't do it for Norway. They do it for everywhere else, and then it will have it. So try to check it before you buy a new refrigerator. Now, another very important thing is a dishwasher. Because in dishwasher, the thing is that even if you put a timer, if you close it, like it depends on closing, right? If you put a timer and you don't close the dishwasher, the dishwasher won't work. So it dependent on you closing, and this is what we call grama. Grama, according to most opinions, is not allowed. But this is grama de Rabbanan. It's grama of something that is not allowed de Rabbanan. It doesn't have any heating like the way of that we talked before. And that's why I would say in Israel, there's people go around to dishwasher and take out the function of that it doesn't work if the door doesn't close. So in that way, it will be completely allowed. In a place of need, it will be allowed because of the Gama de Rabbanan. So there's a special place of need. So let's say there are a lot of people coming and it will be a huge problem for Shabbat that it is not used. So of course you have to pre-program it before Shabbat, but in that way, when you have I would say lots of guests and you need to wash all the dishes, doing it with a timer will be. It's like I'm hesitant, but a lot of people will say that you could do that in a special need if you really need it, and you're also allowed to fill in the dishwasher during Shabbat just to let it stay nice area, even though like you're preparing for after Shabbat. So if you do it in order to prepare for after Shabbat, don't do it. But if it's because the kitchen should look nice also during Shabbat, then it's allowed. Electric doors. That's a very big problem. Try to avoid if you go to a place. If there is a different door, go through that. If you someone else went in, you can go with them. Okay, because there's no problem there, especially when you have so many non-Jews in our countries. So just wait for a non-Jew to open, and you can go in together with them. That will be a bigger and bigger problem because you have these effects everywhere, all the time, and so there are some reasoning to permit in magnetic cards to open hotel room, which is today the last hotel I knew of in Copenhagen that used keys doesn't use keys anymore. So if any one of you know about a hotel using keys, please tell me, because it's important for many people. But it's like almost impossible to avoid. So using magnetic cards, according to a majority of the rabbis, was not allowed. But because it's less of a problem, using a Shabbos goy will not be considered a problem. So if you talk in advance with the hotel saying I have a problem opening and closing the door, and could someone come up and open it for me, then it will be allowed. And there are new opinions, some serious ones, who said that the systems, magnetic doors, because all these electric, it doesn't work like usual, like a light switch. It's a different way of using, and it's a magnetic door. Like it's electric. Electricity goes to the magnet and creates a magnetic field, but there's really no like the. I read a very long article specifically about that a couple of days ago, and he explains that the system that is used today in these doors is not a problem with Shabbat, according to his opinions. There are people, some great rabbis wrote against like his answer, but not that they didn't disagree with halachic understanding. Okay, I have to finish and I have to run. So we
One
finish here.
person has a question.
I don't have time to questions because I have to answer the phone now. It's an emergency. We'll finish it with the response with Rav Moshe David in the future. All the best. Shavua tov.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Shavuot tov.
Shavuot tov.
Water.